Dear Mark, I'm panicking because I can't get hold of any toilet roll. What am I going to do? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to find another way of doing it, because I tell you what, in medieval times, they didn't pop down the local Aldi to buy a 4-pack of Andrex. They didn't. They found other ways of doing it. So stop panicking. There's a thing called water and your hand. And the great thing is, afterwards, you can wash your hands, which some people don't do anyway, which we're meant to be doing. Think outside the box. Bite it, don't fight it. Don't bite that. Anyway, the United Stand, welcome to it. And we have got the Transfer Daily Show for you today, and there's lots to talk about. You know what? I think people are getting a little bit melodramatic. Put a smile on your face and try and keep things as normal as possible. I think we're all panicking. We're all panicking with the old toilet rolls and stuff. Just look after the vulnerable and try and be positive. That's what we need to do. And there's lots and lots of United stuff to talk about today because, as I said last night, United are back in training tomorrow. And so is Paul Pogba. This is positive news. Manchester United with Paul Pogba back is positive. And who knows what's going to happen with the transfer window this summer. There might not be one. We might be playing Premier League games, so there might not be a transfer window. And if we've got Paul Pogba and the momentum that we had, you know what? The longer we move away from United playing, the more proud I am of what we've done over the last month. What Bruno's brought to the team, the improvements of Garlow coming in as well, and Luke Shaw and Martial and Fred and the whole team has been brilliant. And I think you add Paul Pogba into that, great. So United are going to be training. And look, I think there's a little bit of hope out there in relation to football. And I know football is, some people have the right attitude that, well, football's insignificant in relation to what's happening. But I disagree with that. I think football's very significant. I think whether you're watching something on Netflix, you're reading a good book, you're playing a computer game, these things are very important because they make your mood improve. You know, if you just eat butter and bread every day, you're not going to feel great, are you? You're going to get bored and mundane and think, you know what? You drop a bit of chicken mayo in there, maybe a slice of bacon, unless you're a vegetarian, you're loving it. You know, you can have some Vegemite or whatever, but it pimps the ride up a little bit. And I think when we get football back, we'll feel better. And footballers are being told to self-isolate, which I've heard apparently that's the case. But if United players are still training, other clubs are going to be training, we might get back to something relatively soon where we've got games behind closed doors again. As long as they can keep themselves away from this thing and they can play football and everybody's tested before it, clubs can afford these tests, we might get some football back. And Paul Pogba back in training is a positive thing for United as far as I'm concerned. I don't think negativity is the place to be at the moment, and I think Pogba being back is really, 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 really positive. So I'm pleased about that. He will be training tomorrow. Expect to see some pictures tomorrow of our lads training, which, you know, just boosts the mood up a little bit, doesn't it? Some transfer news coming in. Havertz is a fantastic player. Bayer Leverkusen doing really, really well. A lot of you've mentioned him. He's a little bit like Bruno, but to a lesser extent. I think Bruno was really a fan obsession for a long time before United were ever interested. Havertz, a lot of people have been talking about him for a while. Still very young. Been playing in the Bundesliga, I think, for 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons already. And obviously, Bayer Leverkusen, to me, other than Manchester United, probably the biggest threat in the Europa League if it comes about. He scored against Rangers the other night, didn't he? Bayer Leverkusen basically saying they're powerless to keep a player like this, and he is going to be a fantastic player in the future, and he is one of those players that you look at and go, where's he going to go next? It's interesting. I think he'll probably end up at Bayern Munich. They have mentioned that they wouldn't want to let him go for anything less than 100 million. I don't really take any notice of transfer fees at the moment. I think players will move as long as the transfer window opens, but I think when we start talking about values, I mean, look, Phil Jones, as I said last night, Newcastle and West Ham are looking at him. This panic buying thing's getting ridiculous. First of all, people hoarding toilet rolls. Now clubs are desperate to sign Phil Jones. Joke. Smile. It's a joke, Phil. Just go with it. Pink boots. It's all a laugh. We're all trying to have a laugh. But seriously, I don't think the transfer window is really there to be, we want 100 million. That was last week. Who knows what, football clubs are losing money. Massive amounts of money. United's 100 million they had to Sancho could be 30 million by the summer in relation to money they've lost. But it's all relative. If Dortmund may not be, but maybe Bayer Leverkusen or somebody who's got an asset and they know they've got to sell that asset because that money is going to be important to them. The 100 million they wanted last week, maybe 20 million will do now. I think the transfer, it might not be a bad thing. The transfer market's bottom might fall out because of the crisis that we're going through. Not necessarily a global financial crisis, which may well happen, but football's going to lose a lot of money. If there's no football for 2, 3, 4 months, maybe even 6 months, some are saying, I don't think it'll be that much because I think they need to generate the money. And all these footballers who are like, we don't want to put ourselves at risk. Well, there's nurses out there doing that for a hell of a lot less money. So you are paid to entertain. If you want to go and not play football because you don't want to put yourself at risk, that's your personal choice. But there's plenty of players who will take that opportunity, and at some point we will need to get football back. And I think that if you're on 200 grand a week or 100 grand a week, football clubs are going to have to honour those contracts, but they're going to need to get back playing when it's safe. When it's safe to do so, they're going to need to get back playing. But I do think the transfer fees are something that I would say, and it's only my feeling, I don't think transfer fees are relevant anymore. When people are talking about Sancho for 100 million, I think, yeah, Sancho probably will leave Dortmund, but your price might have to come down because the value of money in football is going to come down. And that might not be a bad thing now that we've got this crisis. It could make transfer fees more realistic. So Havertz is one to keep an eye on. I would like Havertz at Manchester United. I don't feel it would happen in conclusion. I think he's more likely to go to a Bayern Munich or a Real Madrid. I think I remember him talking before about Cruz, and he did talk about the Premier League, but and he also spoke glowingly about staying in Germany. I always have a feeling with Bundesliga players that, unless it's Sancho, who's obviously English, I always have this feeling that they're going to stay where they are or maybe go Real Madrid. You don't get many coming to the Premier League, but that might be about to change with the likes of Timo Werner. So, also Marker talking about Van de Beek of Ajax. It's interesting with Van de Beek of Ajax. This time last summer and even in January, a lot of people are like, yeah, let's go and get him. But Ajax haven't had a great season in the Champions League. Obviously, they dropped down to the Europa League. Then they got knocked out of that. Van de Beek, maybe, look, he's a very good player, but is he now what Manchester United are looking at when you look at some of the options we've got? I.e., if you're asking me whether I want Van de Beek or Grealish, I would prefer Grealish. If I want Van de Beek or Thomas Partey, I would want Thomas Partey. I've got nothing against Van de Beek. I've just thought I'd throw it in there that Marker is saying if Real Madrid back off, United might be able to pull in. And I'm like, look, he's a good player. There's no doubt about that. But there are risk elements to Ajax players or Dutch players. Some have come to the league and done very well. Some of them haven't. I forget the name. Was it Jordi Klaassen, who went to Southampton? Didn't do particularly well. I think Everton in the past have bought a couple as well. Obviously there's examples of people who have done well, but I just think United, really, in relation to the midfield area, looking at Grealish is a good idea. If Pogba ends up going, which he might not, but I still think Thomas Partey, if you can get hold of him, what a signing he would be. Also a little bit about Raul Jimenez of Wolves, the striker there. I think United's striker situation very much fits in with what we were talking about on the last night's show about Garlow and potentially a £15 million deal. He's 31 in the summer, 150 grand a week or 100 grand a week. Is that right to sign a Garlow because we all like him and should we be looking a little bit long term? Jimenez I think is 29 or 28 at the moment, so there's not a massive amount of difference in the age, but he is Premier League proven and he does offer us something else. I just think the great thing about Garlow at the moment that keeps him in the conversation is that, and I said this on Thursday night, and some people took it the wrong way, Garlow's happy to be at Manchester United, and ultimately I think he's one of those players, a bit like Solskjaer in his day. They ain't going to start sulking that they're on the bench. He will get starts, but ultimately Martial's ahead of him, Rashford's ahead of him, maybe Sancho's ahead of him, but he's still going to get on. He's going to, he's the backup striker, which United need more of those. I grew up with the United sides that had John O'Shea's, that had Wes O'Brown, he's Irish, the Darren Fletchers, even the Phil Nevilles. These players, international players, the Nicky Butts, who, when your best 11's fit, they probably don't get in. They're on the bench, but they still play 30 to 40 games a season. They're still massively important. And United, now we're starting to build our first 11, we next need to build the bench of quality. And I think that Garlow does tick that box. Whereas if you bring a Jimenez in, or a Werner, or even a Harry Kane, which won't happen, they're going to be wanting to start games, which can be disruptive. You almost want that striker like a Garlow, who, yeah, he wants to start games, but he's just happy to be here and work for the shirt as well. This was quite interesting. Sean Dyche, the Burnley manager, talking about Dwight McNeil, and left-sided player. I've not seen him play loads. I haven't seen him play loads, but every time I've seen him, when I've watched Burnley, he's been very impressive. Quite a direct, left-footed player, got a good delivery, can get a goal, good dribbler. People have likened him to Ryan Giggs. Look, if he's a Ryan Giggs, he's a Poundland version, but he's a very good player, and I think, I don't know. Sean Dyche has basically said we're a business at Burnley. If a decent offer comes in, we've got to look at it. I would suggest he's probably more likely to go to an Everton than a Manchester United or a Spurs or a Chelsea. But to be honest with you, you look at what we've done with Dan James. I like the look of that Dwight McNeil. I like the look of him. I think he's a decent player. And again, when you're looking at bench options, then yeah, he's decent. My only thing would be about Dwight McNeil is that we've got Dan James for that role as well. But you know, it's interesting that Sean Dyche basically saying, you know, we might have to move a player like that on. The thing is, what I would say about this, I wouldn't mind a player like that. I think he's been very good in a Burnley side that isn't known for free-flowing football. So imagine what he'd do in a better team. And I think I've always looked at that over the years, and I know a lot of you will as well. You look at a player like a Kevin Phillips at Sunderland, who's scoring a lot of goals in a team that's not that good, and you always wonder, what would he do in a team where they create loads and loads of goals? It doesn't always work out that way. But Dwight McNeil, I think Burnley would be looking 40, 50 million, which means he's probably going to have to go to a club that's going to be like, yeah, we need you to play first team football. Whereas United, I don't think they would want to pay 40 to 50 million for a player that's probably not going to walk into the first team, especially when we're looking at other positions like the Jadon Sancho one. So interesting about Dwight McNeil as well. We spoke about Garlow last night, and obviously we've spoken to you about Havertz and Jimenez and Van de Beek. A little bit on Jude Bellingham as well. Apparently the price for Jude Bellingham has been met by 4 clubs: Manchester United, Dortmund, Bayern Munich and Chelsea. We saw him a week ago actually coming out of Carrington with his dad smiling. His dad was smiling. And that doesn't mean he's coming to Manchester United. I would really hope that we can get hold of Jude Bellingham. 16 years of age. He's played over 30 games in the Championship. It's no guarantee, but it's a pretty good guarantee that you've got a player there that's going to be a decent player if he's playing Championship football in the centre midfield at 16 years of age. Still not 17 yet. And I think Birmingham, with their financial fair play issues, you'll get him for a fair price. It's all about selling the product. It's selling the product here. Chelsea, Lampard can say, look at my youth setup. I've played youth players, Mount, Tomori, plenty of players have come into this team. We play a decent brand of football. You'll get game time. My midfield's still not settled yet. Dortmund can say, look at Sancho, look at Haaland, look at what we've done for younger players. And yeah, you will move on to a bigger club after this, but it's a great place to be. Bayern Munich, I mean, he might just be enamoured by Bayern Munich. But Manchester United, we heard that Sir Alex Ferguson had met him and stuff like that. We are sort of selling a vision at United, probably more than Chelsea and Dortmund. I think Chelsea and Dortmund can talk factually about what they've done. Having said that, look at Greenwood, look at Brandon Williams, look at the exciting football we've played over the last month, look at the size of the club. I would hope that United have still got that pull, because having lost Erling Haaland, it would be, I don't want to use the word embarrassing, but disappointing to lose to Dortmund or Chelsea in a situation like this. So I hope that we do get Bellingham, and I think that I wouldn't be opposed if he went straight into the first team setup. I wouldn't be opposed if we loaned him back to Birmingham to help them out for a year and he just kept on developing. But I would like to get that player. Anyway, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new. And remember, first episode of my Manchester United career mode was live yesterday. Lots of people watching it and enjoying it. Very in-depth. I'm building a youth academy. We're doing all the games. We're looking at all the press conferences, all the emails that you get, all the contracts. It's an in-depth FIFA career mode, which I don't normally do. Episode 2 live today, this afternoon. I've put the link in the video description so you can subscribe and check out when I go live. It's going to be between 1 and about 3:30 at some point. No, it won't be 1. But between 2 and 4 I will go live. But links in the video description to subscribe. I'll see you on there, and then 8 o'clock tonight it's the call-in. Speak to you soon.